If you're trying to lose belly fat but every plan feels too extreme or unsustainable for you, I'll show you exactly where I would start if I had to get lean again in my 30s or beyond. See, at one point I thought I was doing all the right things, like eating boiled chicken every day, sweet potato, broccoli, pushing extra cardio on the bike, cutting every drink and snack, no restaurants or takeaway, yet I still couldn't get six-pack lean until I figured out something much simpler, something that actually fit my lifestyle and worked for me regardless of how busy I was. And after coaching men for 8 years. These are the 4 things I would do first, even if you're always busy, feel like you've tried everything or that your metabolism is working against you. However, this first thing might feel too easy to actually work, but it's a big reason my clients finally start seeing results once they join my program. Let me tell you what it is. So if I had to get lean again, I wouldn't start by cutting out carbs, swapping meals for salads, or following some super trendy diet that my buddy heard on a podcast. So the mistake with like 99% of common diets is that most busy guys jump into them without knowing their numbers, which is like trying to run a business without checking your bank account. However, all you need is a simple plan that balances your energy in with your energy out, keeping you in a metabolic deficit so your body continues to burn off more fat over the long term. This is not a short-term quick fix approach. And you also do not need to starve yourself every day. And this is not just my experience, there are studies to prove this. For example, a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that macronutrient ratios don't matter as much as calorie intake does when it comes to losing more body fat. They concluded that reduced calorie diets result in clinically meaningful weight loss regardless of which macronutrients they emphasized in these different groups within the study. What this means is that low carb or low fat, high carb, high protein, whatever the combination is, can all work if it keeps your body in a fat loss state progressively and consistently. This should feel like great news to you, because rather than overhauling your entire pantry or your fridge and everything that you eat in a day or a week, you can simply just focus on using MyFitnessPal or a similar app to track your food every day. You can pre-track your food even just 1 or 2 days ahead if you like, which only takes a couple of minutes to do. You can pick the meals you already enjoy and match it to your calorie budget. And by doing so, this will help you be consistent without trying to be perfect every day, because you're still enjoying the food you eat and not starving yourself on food that is bland and boring. So the first thing I would start with is figuring out my daily and weekly budget that you can stick to regardless of how busy you are. Once you do this, losing body fat becomes much more predictable while still factoring in family dinners, business lunches, networking drinks, events, things that pop up. You can still enjoy those things provided it fits within your budget. But also how you train can positively or negatively impact your metabolic deficit that you're maintaining. And I'll show you how. So there's no chance I would train 6 days a week, not even 5 days a week. I wouldn't do fasted cardio, HIIT circuits, or some random gym classes. Because more workouts doesn't guarantee more strength and muscle. And what most busy guys don't realize is that recovery is equally as important as the training they're doing. Pushing too hard can drain your energy, and it can also jack up your hunger, which ultimately will stall your progress because you're having to eat more food to satisfy those cravings. So instead, I would train less, but with more purpose and progression. In fact, a study comparing 2 versus 4 resistant training sessions per week with the same total training volume found no significant difference in fat loss or muscle gain between the 2 workouts or the 4 workouts per week group in this study. So what this means is that if your volume is appropriate, you don't need to train more often. 2 to 3 workouts is perfect, and this is important because muscle is kind of like your body's metabolic engine. The more you build, the more calories you're going to burn, even at rest. Not to mention the other benefits of stronger bones, joints, tendons, ligaments, higher testosterone, better sleep, and think about anyone who is in their 60s or 70s who has more muscle. They just look a lot younger than people who have no muscle at all for the age group. So the good news is you don't have to live in the gym to build more muscle and transform your body shape. And if you're as busy as most of my clients are, here is how I would train. I would hit all the major muscle groups in each workout. I would focus on strength progression, which means more repetitions, adding more weight gradually, and improving your technique over time so that you reduce the risk of any injuries. I would keep the workouts short, focused, and progressive. So you're never wasting a workout, you're never wasting any time whether you train at home or in a gym or wherever it is. And improve in every workout, even if it's just by 1 or 2%. Because this way, you're not going to overwhelm your body, but you're actually getting stronger and stronger week after week. And when you look back after 2 or 3 months, you're going to be very motivated and proud of the progress you've made just by little incremental progressions each week. 3 focused progressive workouts beats 6 random workouts every week, hands down. But even with great training combined with smart nutrition, you won't get below 15% body fat lean unless you optimize this next thing. The thing that quietly boosts your metabolism or stalls it. If I had to get lean again, I wouldn't stress over doing more cardio. I wouldn't sign up for spin classes or force myself to run if I hated it. I would not order a Peloton or a treadmill. Instead, I would focus on something far more underrated. Because cardio is not king. Your NEAT is king. And a study published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings showed that your NEAT, which stands for your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, fancy name for just all the movement you do that is not deliberate exercise. So that could be your walking, standing, typing on a keyboard, showering, driving the car, cleaning the house, cooking, taking the stairs, whatever it is, pacing around on calls. When you add all this up, they found in this study that it could account for up to an extra 2,000 calories burned per day beyond your basal metabolic rate, depending on your body weight and activity level. However, 2,000 on top of your BMR is a huge amount for busy guys, particularly the guys that I work with who are desk bound for most of their day. So I'd probably say it's more like, 500 to 1,000 extra calories on top of your BMR just from your NEAT. But that is still massive, and that is sustainable without needing to add extra cardio on top of your workouts every single day. So for losing more body fat, your NEAT is going to burn more calories over the total week than the odd cardio session will. And the good thing about your NEAT is that it's incidental movement. So you're not going to be jacking up your hunger or draining your body, just getting more steps and moving around, getting up out of the desk more often. When it comes to your high intensity cardio, I'm not saying it's bad. I just hear a lot of bad reports, and I see it in the data where people go too hard on cardio, that jacks up their appetite and their cravings. They end up eating more food and kind of neutralizing their effort, meaning the fat loss doesn't really decline while they're pushing too hard. This can compound more, particularly on those stressful weeks when there's a lot going on. You might be traveling, there might be family stuff, priorities. Overcooking yourself is going to increase the appetite, meaning you're just going to naturally eat more, probably without realizing it. So instead of trying to chase like these short-term, intense calorie burn, high intensity cardio things that people like to do, here's what I would focus on. Aim for a minimum of 10,000 or 12,000 on the more optimal side steps per day. But while you're doing that, keep an eye on your calorie burn so that you can start to learn what is your average calorie burn day to day and week to week. I would take short walks either before or after a meal. Even 5 minutes could be an extra 500 steps. Take the stairs, pace around when you're on phone calls or listening to podcasts, watching something on YouTube, or even watching a show if you can stand up and move around more often. And if it's possible, park further away. Find any excuse to get up and move around. Instead of asking people to bring you stuff, you go and get it yourself just to get that extra movement. It is so worth it, even if it's a couple of minutes here and there. This is easy and it's repeatable every single day, and this will not spike your hunger or fry your body, ruining your recovery from your workouts. Focusing on this is how my busiest clients can consistently lose body fat while they're traveling, or if they're working, super long days during peak seasons or whatever's happening. But there's one more internal shift that makes all of this easier to stick to long term, and it's this last thing that I want to show you next so you can go and implement this into your routine. Sometimes the scale can feel like it is lying to you. You could be doing everything right, eating in a deficit, training consistently, getting leaner, and yet the number on the scale barely moves, or it even jumps up at times and you don't know why. I've seen this mess with so many guys' heads that they panic and think it's not working, there's something wrong with them, they have to push even harder, or unfortunately some even give up. But here's how you can avoid that. Take front, side, and back progress photos every 2 to 3 weeks. This way you can see the physical changes that you're not going to notice in the mirror every single day. Then I would track every workout you do, making sure you're always getting stronger over time. I recommend using an app that is easy to track on your phone, which is exactly what I do with my clients in my program, so that every workout they do is always moving forward and they never waste a minute in the gym. And I would monitor your burn zone. This is the gap between the calories that you're consuming and the calories that you're burning. This gap is the key because it's going to keep your body in a fat loss state if you maintain that right metabolic burn zone gap. If you don't maintain the gap, then you're going to start to plateau or maybe even gain back body fat over the long term, regardless of what the scale's doing. Because when you're losing fat and building muscle, especially after coming back after a break of not doing it for a while, your weight on the scale is going to fluctuate. There might be weeks where it doesn't, and there might be weeks where it does quite massively, and that's completely normal because your body can still be changing without you noticing, and this is why the photos are so important, so you can get a visual comparison to what happened in the past. And this way, it's always going to be most rewarding and motivating to see what has physically changed no matter what the scale says. Your clothes will start fitting better, your waist will start to shrink, people will start to make compliments at how you're looking and your face looking and your jawline sticking out, and the progress will come, but you're not always going to see it immediately on the scale. So if I had to get lean again, I would stop obsessing over weight and start focusing on what actually matters long term. And these 4 things would be my starting point, which is a smart and sustainable routine that even the busiest guys I've ever worked with can follow. And if you want a step-by-step version of the routine, everything I've just discussed in this video laid out for you, the exact steps that I give my clients to drop 40, 50, 60, even up to 100 pounds or more while getting stronger and maintaining it in a very busy schedule, then take a look at my Business Body Blueprint routine. The link is just below this video in the description. Tap it, check it out. Doesn't hurt to take a quick look. And only ask that you do 3 workouts a week. Worst case, 2 will still get you awesome results if you implement this routine. Just tap the link below the video and all the details are there. Once you've taken a look, then I'd recommend going and watching this video next to avoid the 5 habits that are keeping men fat over 20% body fat or even 30% body fat. Go watch that now and make sure you're not making any of these mistakes before you implement the blueprint routine that we just discussed.